This video is brought to you by Brilliant. At first glance, one might expect Ireland, a militarily neutral country, to be relatively immune from the wider European conversation on boosting defence spending. It is, after all, on the far western edge of Europe, a long way from any conflict zones, and its only border is with the United Kingdom, with whom, despite a long and troubled history, it now has friendly relations. However, while an invasion isn't really a concern for Ireland, it's still in a vulnerable position. For example, it is a base for multinational tech giants, making it a potential target for cyber attacks. It is also a potential target for physical infrastructure attacks, as Ireland is a crucial node connecting Europe to North America, with 75% of all transatlantic cables in the Northern Hemisphere passing through or near Irish waters. So in this video, we're going to explore the current state of Ireland's military, explain why it's considered a weak link in Europe, and take a look at the government's plans to change that. Explore which world leaders are winning and which are losing every week with our new podcast, The World Leader Leaderboard. Find it over on the TLDR Podcast YouTube channel or in your favourite podcast app. One of the major changes that the Irish government is seeking to make is to loosen the rules on deploying Irish troops abroad. It would be easy to assume that Ireland's neutrality would leave its military inexperienced and completely uninvolved in conflicts around the world. However, this isn't the case at all. In fact, Ireland is the only nation to have a continuous presence on UN and UN-mandated peace support operations since 1958. Irish peacekeepers have a strong international reputation, having been sent to conflicts on nearly every continent, with their most significant and still ongoing deployment being to Lebanon. There is, however, a pretty firm limitation, known as the triple lock, on deploying Irish troops overseas. The triple lock, which is triggered for deployments of more than 12 soldiers, requires approval from 1. The Irish government, 2. The Irish Parliament, and 3. The United Nations. The government is seeking to dismantle the triple lock by increasing the threshold at which it is triggered from 12 to 50 soldiers, and by removing the requirement for UN authorization. The government has justified this move by saying that it would remove the ability of permanent members of the UN Security Council, like Russia, to veto Ireland's involvement in peacekeeping missions, with Foreign and Defence Minister Simon Harris saying the change would reinforce Ireland's ability to pursue an independent foreign policy. Now, critics of the policy change say it's unnecessary, because Ireland already amended the triple lock back in 2006 to enable Irish overseas deployment with approval from the UN Security Council or the UN General Assembly, where no countries have a veto. However, the primary responsibility for authorising peacekeeping missions sits with the Security Council, and while the General Assembly can do so, it's only ever done so once, back in 1956 during the Suez Crisis. So scrapping the requirement for UN approval altogether could have a far more tangible impact on Irish deployments than the 2006 amendment did. Under the proposed changes, if, for example, Russia were to veto a peacekeeping mission in Ukraine, Ireland could still be a part of it, something that the Irish government has expressed an openness to. Now, the government says it has no desire to alter Ireland's policy of military neutrality, adding that there is no connection between the triple lock and military neutrality. However, the planned changes have sparked political backlash from opposition parties, the main party being Sinn Féin, which says the changes pose a significant risk to Ireland's long-standing neutrality. Nevertheless, that's far from the only change that the Irish military is undergoing, but to understand the others, we need to look at the current state of the Irish Defence Forces. A major Government Commission report from 2022 laid bare the military's weakness. It said continuing business as usual would leave Ireland, quote, unable to meet its desired level of military deployment overseas, and, most importantly, without a credible military capability to protect Ireland, its people, and its resources for any sustained period. As a proportion of GDP, Ireland spends the least in Europe on defence, with its defence budget in 2024 just shy of €1.29 billion, or 0.24% of its GDP. Like many other countries, Ireland struggles with military recruitment and retention. At the end of 2024, the Defence Force counted 7,557 active personnel in total. That's around 2,000 fewer than in 2010, and a considerable way off from the 2028 target of 11,500 personnel. The Defence Forces are also lacking in terms of hardware. The Irish Air Corps hasn't had a single fighter jet since 1998. It has no long-range heavy airlift planes and lacks a primary radar system, meaning it's incapable of detecting and tracking aircraft that have turned off their transponders. In fact, the 2022 report said that the status quo effectively meant the island has, quote, no air defence capability of any significance. It's probably not surprising then that there is a decades-old, largely unspoken agreement that sees Ireland rely on help from the UK's Royal Air Force to guard its airspace. As for the naval service, things aren't much better, especially given Ireland's extensive maritime domain, which covers 15% of EU waters. The current fleet comprises 6 ships and has been marred by operational trouble, largely owing to staffing shortfalls. The naval service doesn't have any submarines, and its ships do not have sonar capabilities, naturally raising doubts about Ireland's ability to monitor and defend undersea infrastructure, a serious concern given incidents of Russian activity in Irish waters. In fact, when Russia planned military exercises in Ireland's exclusive economic zone in early 2022, it was local fishermen who put up the strongest resistance. Against this backdrop, Ireland has often been labelled Europe's weakest link in terms of defence. So what are the government's plans to boost Ireland's military capabilities? Well, in the wake of the 2022 report, the government committed to increase defence spending to €1.5 billion by 2028, in line with the report's proposed level of ambition too, which apparently represents the largest increase in defence funding in the history of the Irish state. The coalition's programme for government, agreed following last year's election, reiterated the goal of achieving that level, and has said that Ireland should then move as quickly as possible to level of ambition 3, the highest proposed level, which would entail an annual defence budget of around €3 billion. Among other things, the plans would see the naval service renamed the Irish Navy and Air Corps renamed the Irish Air Force, and Defence Minister Harris has also called for a much more aggressive procurement strategy to secure key things like radar and sonar capacity. Additionally, Level of Ambition 3 would see the Air Force acquire fighter jets and the Navy double its fleet to 12 ships. Obviously, this is just a process and can't be achieved with a simple writing of a cheque. Perhaps the most significant challenge is the fact that all these new higher tech systems and hardware require new and improved infrastructure and an increased number of personnel to operate and maintain them, which, given the current recruitment and retention struggles, won't be easy. At TLDR News, we're always trying to help you learn more about the world around you. Luckily for us, our sponsor this week, Brilliant, shares this same commitment, with thousands of lessons in maths, science, programming, and AI. And not only that, but their interactive lessons teach you by doing, instead of just asking you to mindlessly memorize stuff. This helps you build your critical thinking skills and become a better thinker. For instance, Brilliant's newly updated maths courses help you establish a strong foundation in algebra. It then helps you build on this, teaching you how to conquer calculus, all while maintaining an emphasis on problem solving and reasoning. But the thing I like best about this is that their mathematical courses help you develop your mathematical intuition and fluency, skills that you can use in the real world. As we've told you before, data skills are absolutely necessary for navigating the modern world, and Brilliant is the best way to get them. To try Brilliant for free, visit brilliant.org/TLDR or click the QR code on screen. Or you can click the link in the description, and you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription.